We are following some major breaking news out of Gaza, where Hamas has just announced that they will release all of the remaining Israeli hostages, both living and dead. I've got the statement right here in front of me. I'm going to read it to you. We just got this in. In order to achieve a cessation of hostilities and a complete withdrawal from the Gaza Strip, the movement announces its agreement to release all Israeli prisoners, both living and dead, according to the exchange formula contained in President Trump's proposal, provided the field conditions for the exchange are met. In this context, the movement affirms its readiness to immediately enter into negotiations through the mediators to discuss the details of this agreement. So again, that is Hamas saying that it will now release all of the Israelis that remain in captivity, both living and dead. That is part and parcel to the proposal that President Trump had laid out in order to create the conditions for a ceasefire in this longstanding conflict. We are now about a week away from the anniversary of October 7th. The president had given Hamas the deadline of Sunday at 6 p.m. Washington time. Clearly, this is coming in far before that deadline. I want to bring in now the New York Times' Peter Baker, our political analyst, as well as our senior White House correspondent, Vaughn Hilliard. And Peter, just react for a moment to Hamas essentially acquiescing here.
Yeah, on the surface, at first, certainly it looks like a very promising development. They're saying that they welcome Trump's peace plan, that they want to find a way to basically meet its conditions. Now, the devil is going to be in the details. It says it's going to negotiate details, and we've seen moments before where it looked like there were moments of progress, and then the details, bollocks things up. For instance, they do say that they want to agree to surrender control of Gaza to a Palestinian independent body. Well, that's not exactly what President Trump proposed. He proposed a body that he would actually chair with other notable figures like Tony Blair, the former British Prime Minister. So it's not quite clear whether Hamas is agreeing to what President Trump stipulated on that part of the plan, or whether they have some other ideas in mind and whether that could be negotiated. But on the whole, it's very promising. Our reporting from the ground in Gaza has shown there's a great impatience on the part of Gazans to get this war over. They were pressuring Hamas to come to the table and find a way to accept Trump's peace plan, that they need to move on beyond this war, to begin reconstruction, to begin taking care of the people who have been suffering so much over these last couple of years.
And their demands had been echoed by virtually the entire Arab League. And Vaughn, I know this news is just breaking. Are you hearing word from the White House about their reaction?
We're actually waiting for the White House. I am told by one source, though, that Qatar and Egypt, who have been working as intermediaries, that they transmitted this message from Hamas to the White House here. And in the statement, it says that the movement affirms its readiness to immediately enter into negotiations through the mediators to discuss the details of this agreement. Of course, earlier this week, Bibi Netanyahu and President Trump made clear that it would be a 72-hour window in which Hamas had to turn over the remaining hostages here. I think Peter's absolutely right. That it's in those details here about what does the actual control over the Gaza Strip look like here going forward, because Hamas seems to, at the end of its statement, indicate that they will be a part of conversations about the future of the Palestinian state and will contribute to it with full responsibility. That's a little different than what President Trump had suggested, that Hamas would have an option, either one, to leave Gaza and find safe refuge elsewhere, or to effectively disarm and seek amnesty in Gaza here. And so I think that there's those questions. But let's be clear, this is a big deal and a big step in the direction toward ending this war. Obviously, having prisoners from both sides, including the Israeli hostages, returned here. And it started 1 week ago over at the UN General Assembly when President Trump met with President Erdogan. He met with the head of Qatar, other Arab leaders, nation leaders. And so that's where that 20-point plan was first presented. And ultimately, he was given the backing to meet with Bibi Netanyahu at the White House a few days later and essentially put the pressure on the Israelis to accept this agreement. And now Hamas indicating that it will work and cooperate here. This is undoubtedly here for this White House a big move, and one that could potentially, hopefully, open up some humanitarian aid capacity as well for those that have suffered inside of Gaza.
And Peter, really quickly before we have to close here, just zoom out about the events of the last few weeks. We saw that strike in Qatar. We saw Bibi Netanyahu do the remarkable thing of apologizing for it on a global stage. We saw the recognition of a Palestinian state by many global players here. We saw the Arab League take the unprecedented move of condemning Hamas, telling them to get to the table. What does this mean? After you've been watching the region for so long, break this down for us. Explain the impact.
Well, look, I think it's the first time we've seen President Trump really try to impose a settlement on this war that's been going on for now nearly 2 years since the Hamas terrorist attack on Israel. And it really shows that the American president has the ability to be a major player. In fact, is the really indispensable player historically, has always been, this position has always been in the Middle East, whether it be this president or other presidents. So he, for the first time in his second term, has really come to the table and said, okay, here's a solution as I see it. He got the Israelis to agree to it. It looks like Hamas is at least making a step toward agreeing toward it. Again, those details may matter, but it's the most promising moment we've seen since President Trump took office again in January when it comes to ending this war in Gaza.
Hopefully, this is the beginning of the end of a very dark chapter. Thank you so much, Peter Baker. Thank you, Vaughn Hilliard.